up here by myself.
You can sit next to me, just hold your hand if you want.
There you go. Go up there and hold hands.
How's everybody doing?
Awesome.
So this is my first panel, or not panel, see I'm already nervous. This is my first keynote speech. I've done panels before. So I brought a book, you know, I probably will glance at it a lot, forgive me, but I'll do my best.
You're gonna do great.
Yes, you are.
So, I'm sure many of you know that I'm a late addition to the event. The original keynote speaker was, if I need to get that. Put it on speaker.
But you have to put it on speaker.
So, yeah, this is my first time being here, and I am a replacement for the original, and she is very talented, she's a great businesswoman, she's great. So when they emailed me and I saw the email in the inbox, I literally looked around and I was like, am I being punked right now? And then I read the email again and I was like, clearly this is not a joke. And then my brain just started working and it was like, why would they want me? They must be desperate. And no, this is my head. And then I promptly made a list of things in my head that I am not. So I am not traditionally published. I am not currently with an agent. I don't have a major social media following. I am not a New York Times bestseller. I am not a Wall Street Journal bestseller. And I did hit USA Today, but I don't actually claim the title because at the time there was a lot of discourse if a author who got the title with an anthology actually deserved the title. We all know, you know. So I don't say that I'm a USA Today bestseller because I
You are.
I didn't get it on my own according to the internet.
You know what? No,
Yeah.
you own it.
Own it.
So, and I also I don't have my books nationwide in Barnes & Noble. So I made that whole list and I thought, who gets up and starts an inspirational speech with a list of their failures? But that is why I'm here, because I'm not a failure. I just don't meet the criteria of what most people would consider very successful in this business. But I am successful, quietly successful, consistently successful. And I've also managed to carve out and keep a place in the romance industry for the last 14 years.
Yeah.
So, I am proof that you can have a legitimate and successful career without all of the things we've been told we must have. And there's nothing wrong with agents, movie deals, traditionally published books, media deals. There's nothing wrong with it. Those things are fabulous and shiny, and I chased them most of my career. And I'll be honest, if somebody walked in right now and offered me any of those things, I would probably strap on a pair of sunglasses and bask in my sparkliness. So, all I'm saying is those things that we mostly measure success in this business by are not the be-all and end-all of a successful publishing career. So even without all of those things, I have amassed over 100 million pages read in Kindle Unlimited. I've been published in 3 different languages. I've hit the top 10 store in Italy in Kindle. I have been offered audiobook deals, and I've curated some of my own. I have books in ebook, print, audio, and I have special editions. I also worked with a kick-ass production company to create a live-action book trailer for #nerd, and it was voted 50 most cinematic book trailers of all time. So I've won awards T-shirts, I've signed at the Paris Book Fair, and I've signed here in the States, just tables away from the authors who are so famous they need bodyguards. So I'm sure you know who all those are. But the thing is, a career is unique for each of us. Each of us have our own path, and we all have our unique strengths and weaknesses. My goals might be the same as yours. And honestly, my goals 14 years ago when I started out, they're not the same as they are now. So, the only true constant in the publishing world, in my opinion, is change. In fact, there's been so many changes in the last 14 years, I'm pretty sure that all of the neck pain I have right now is from whiplash. But I think you have to learn to embrace change because it's an opportunity to grow and learn and, take new steps. So while I have been published for 14 years in this business, I've actually been writing far longer. When I was 15, I wrote my first book, and I was very inspired by R.L. Stine. I loved the Fear Street novels, and I loved the Goosebumps novels. So when I was 15, I sat down at my computer, and it was one of those giant IBM Bell, the monster, one of those dial-up, you could hear it dialing. I sat down and I wrote a young adult novel, but it was about a girl who got an old music box for her birthday, and whenever it played music, people turned into zombies.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
I just thought that was a great idea.
I love that idea. Not gonna lie, I want to read that.
I don't remember the title, but I'm sure I have it printed out from that old ancient computer somewhere.
On a dot matrix.
Yeah. And then, so then after that, life got in the way, I became a teenager and probably the bane of my mother's existence. And then several years later, I was married and I had a daughter and I had another child on the way. And I saw one of those articles in the back of a magazine, and it was like, so you want to be a writer? Take this test and it'll tell you if you're good enough. So I ripped it out of the magazine and I took the test and I mailed it in, and guess what? I was good enough to be a writer for the low price of whatever the price of the course was. And it was a course that they were trying to sell me, but I was really good. This paper said so. So I took the course. And they promised at the end of the course that I would have a complete manuscript that was agent ready to submit. So I started a new book and I wrote it, and it was so old back in the day that I would write the chapters, print them out, and mail them.
Yep.
And then they would come back in the mail marked up with red pen and like, you did this wrong and this is not good, and so I did a whole book that way, and I did complete the entire book. They said it was agent ready. It was called The Secret Ingredient, and it was a middle grade novel about a boy who discovers his school lunch lady was drugging his school in the school lunches. That was inspired by Goosebumps. As you can tell, there was a theme going on with my young years. I've always had an imagination, I guess. So I actually did have that book, but I never did anything with it. I never submitted it or anything. I actually had my son and got busy. So then fast forward many years later, and I was in North Carolina, and both my kids were under the age of 6, and my husband is a Marine. He was a Marine at the time, and he was on deployment in Iraq. And so I was alone in a state that I had just moved to, 2 kids under the age of 6, no family, no husband, and I thought it would be a great time to write a book and submit it to every agent and publishing house I could find. So I did. I wrote a book, and back then it was still the age of the big 5 publishers. Indie publishing was such a baby. And the only real way to get a book deal was to submit. So I wrote the book and I went out to Walmart and I bought this really good paper because they always said, no agent wants to read your query off of Walmart printed thin paper. They want the thick, really nice paper. So I went and I got really thick paper, and I got the self-seal envelopes, and I thought, I am going to blow everyone away with my paper. I'm gonna get 1,000,000 deals. I got 100 rejections. So yeah, I got 100 rejections. One agent told me nobody wanted to read a male POV. We all know that's a lie. One told me they probably could sell my book, but they didn't feel like it. One told me that the way I began chapters was too abrupt, and I needed to work on it, which, okay, fair, sure, you know. So I just kept writing, and I let the rejections pile up. I stopped counting after 100 or so, and surprisingly, I had been afraid of the rejections, but it only made me more determined. It almost made me mad in a way, like, how dare you tell me no? That magazine article said I was cool. You know, like, how dare you? So I kept writing. I actually wrote 4 books in that series, and it is still unpublished. It is a werewolf series. And the first book was titled Glacier. And that's the one that got all the rejections. But I wrote 4 books in that series. And then I shifted to a young adult paranormal romance novel called Masquerade. And that has hellhounds. And that actually was rejected many times as well. And I got really fed up with agents, and I started submitting to small indie publishers. And Masquerade got picked up. So I was picked up for Masquerade, and my first book came out in 2014. And then I learned a lot in that small amount of time. I learned mainly that I'm a giant control freak. And my husband's been telling me that for years, but I never believed him. Basically, I wanted control of the cover. I wanted control of the editing. I wanted control of the marketing. I didn't want to put little tiny babies in cakes for a marketing option, which is what the marketing company wanted me to do.
What?
What?
I think it was for
Mardi Gras.
It was for Mardi Gras because my book was titled Masquerade.
Yeah.
But the book was about hellhounds, and I didn't want to do that.
The math's not mathing for me.
And I was like, but I did learn a lot because, you know, I learned the ins and outs. I learned, you know, about editing and all of that, and they published the book. And then I think right after the second book came out in that series, they decided that they were going to close their doors, the publishing house. And so I was back to square one, and I had a choice. I could go back to querying agents and probably hear no 1,000,000 more times, or I could just say yes to myself. Because at that time, indie publishing was coming up. So I got my rights back, and I published everything myself. And I really wanted the matte cover, you know, the matte book cover that was soft. Back then, that was like the bougiest of bougie things you could have. You were like, you walked into Barnes & Noble and those books had that, and I really wanted it. My book might not be there, but I was having that. So I had to sign up for Ingram, which we now know as the Ingram Spark. It was Lightning Source way back in the day. I had to fill out more forms and mail them away. And then they approved my account. You couldn't just sign up online. And then they let me into the publishing world, and I got my matte covers. So, I also learned from that no one is going to work harder than you for you.
True. Agreed.
So, you know, and I also learned that if I'm going to put my name on it, I want to have control of it, and I want to be 100% proud of everything that my name is on. So, not long, blah, 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 I already said that. So during that time when I was setting up my own publishing label, I did a bunch of other things to get my name out there. I moderated a group on Goodreads. I also co-hosted a podcast where we interviewed authors. I wrote reviews for movies on a website that I don't know if that website is still live anymore, but I wrote reviews. I basically said yes to every single opportunity that came my way. Anything that got me closer to writing, that got me closer to getting my name out there. And then since then, I have published over 70 books in various formats and genres within romance. So I went from YA paranormal into contemporary romance, where I've written romantic suspense, college sports, modern fairy tale retellings. I write male, and a few romances with dark themes. I didn't have an alien romance. From that one summer, I went through a phase.
Were you attracted to aliens during that summer, or was it just fascination?
Well, honestly, I'll tell you, the monster romance thing was huge that summer. And everybody, let me tell you, the books I have seen on Amazon, I'm like, the title of that is what? And they wanted down my books in the So I wrote an alien romance novel, but I wasn't too good with the monster romance because I like plot too much, and I like when they love each other. And anyway, she got abducted by aliens, and she really liked it. So that's a lot of different genres. I've written, many things, but I think the readers have come to expect found family, strong characterization, and humor in all of my books. So that kind of pulls them together. So, saying all of that, that's how I got to basically sitting here in front of you today. I put together a few lists of do's and don'ts, if anybody would be interested in that.
Yes, we do.
It would be good for any author, and honestly, you could probably, if you're not an author, you could probably apply it to anything you're passionate about, or any, everyday life. So the first thing, and I think is the most important, at least for me, is to be consistent. I think it's the hardest one, but what makes it being hard is because it's constant, and it requires a lot of discipline. So I often tell my husband and my family that I feel like a hamster on the wheel, running and never getting anywhere. I do get places to the end of the book, to a headache. You get places. You get to release days, new beginnings for new books, but the job never really stops. That means there's a chance for burnout, being overwhelmed, and being very stressed is high. This is a high pressure job, and you would think it wouldn't be because you get to stay home in your pajamas all day, but let me tell you, it doesn't work like that. There's no eating bonbons on the couch, even if I wish there was.
You at your desk.
That's true. I drink coffee constantly at my desk. So how do you stay consistent? Because I say consistency is the most important. I know some authors get up super early in the morning, like especially those that have like day jobs. They get up super early in the morning before the entire house gets up, and they write their allotted words until they're done, and then the day starts. Some people are night owls, and they write at night, and they wait until the house is quiet. I know one author who can pull all-nighters, and she's got kids, and I'm like, I don't know how you live without sleep, girl, but good for you. For me, when my kids were little, I would write after they went to bed, and then when they got to school age, I would take them and drop them off to school and come home and write during the day. But now my kids are 19 and 21, so you think it would be easier for me to find the time to write, but it's not. You would be surprised at the amount of things a person will do to get out of writing. Cleaning your bathroom, cleaning off your desktop, oh my gosh, there's a piece of laundry on the floor, now I have to wash everything in the house. It's just, avoidance, procrastination. I also was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So that was probably 8 or 10 years autoimmune disorder that presents its own set of challenges. I have to pay extra attention to my health and my stress levels. So I learned very quickly that putting my health above everything else was really important. But I always come back to the one thing, this advice that I heard years ago. I don't know who it was from. I think it was from somebody famous, but I don't remember. Is keep your ass in the chair. And we've all heard this, right? Keep your ass in the chair. It sounds so simple, but it's so hard. You put your ass in the chair and you keep it there. You do the work and you write the words. Nothing will get done if you aren't in the chair. Can you tell I tell myself that like constantly? Most days now I wake up, I have coffee, sit on the couch with my dog for 37 hours. It's very quick. It's a very quick time. And then I usually do work out because, as I mentioned, I have health issues. So I do exercise, but I will tell you, the treadmill really gets the brain flowing, and I have come up with a lot of crazy plots on the treadmill. So if you're ever like in the need for something, get on a treadmill and put some earbuds in with some music. You'll be surprised where your mind wanders. At least I am. I'm like, wow, girl, where'd that come from? And then many years ago, I had a 5K goal. I had to write 5,000 words a day. I'm too old for that now. I'm just too old. I'm too tired. So now,
how would you feel?
Yeah.
I feel old.
Well, I feel old. So now I just try and write as much as I can that day, and I focus more on the quality of words and not the quantity. If I like what I wrote that day, if it made me feel something, or if it advanced the plot in some way. So, and I do, when I am writing a book, I do try and write every single day, but sometimes that just doesn't happen because life is the way that it is. So, you just, and then some days you sit at the laptop and you have brain fog, or your brain is just not braining and you're just sitting there and you're staring. So my advice would be to shift your thinking and you think, what can I do today? Like, I might not be able to write all the words today, but I can make these graphics that I need, or I can finish this newsletter, or I can post something on my website, or I can post on social media. So, and as I mentioned, sometimes I clean the bathroom or clean my desktop, but do something. I always try and do something, and then when you're ready to come back to writing, all of the other things that you needed to do are done. So it's less of a distraction. And one other way I stay constant for social media is because we all know social media is a giant time suck, and it's like a vortex. Once you get on there, you start scrolling, you're like, what am I even here for? What was I supposed to be doing? I usually take one day a week and I schedule a week's worth of posts. Does it take hours? Yes, it does. It takes hours, but I'm not on social scrolling because I'm in like the scheduler and I can't get distracted by what Karen, my next door neighbor, said about her doll. Although,
What scheduler do you use? Or are you using what Facebook has?
I use Meta. I use the Meta Facebook scheduler, and I schedule on Instagram and Facebook, and I do a week out. I usually do a post I do several posts on Facebook every day, and at least one on Instagram every day. And you can schedule stories too, and you can put links in, so I do that. So that helps you, and then the rest of the week, you don't even have to log in if you don't want to. You can just check in, make sure your stuff's posting, respond to comments, and you're done. So the second thing is to give yourself time. You must give yourself time. It takes time to write a book. It takes time to do editing. It takes time to, just get your life together. It's a marathon. This business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So it's kind of like finding a great store online, and I know you do this. You find a great store online and you put like, you add everything in the cart that you want, and then you look at the cart and you owe $53,000 in prices. So then you close out and you never go back because you're overwhelmed, it's too much, whatever, so, take your time. Do one thing at a time. If you don't, everything else will feel like lacking. And you should also invest in your writing with a great cover, a great blurb, and an editor. And I know we've all heard this a million times, but let's face it, readers will not pick up a book if they don't like the cover. They will bypass a cover if they don't like the way it looks, if it doesn't resonate with them. And so you hook them with a great cover, I think you need to invest in editing. Because you put so much time and effort, you put your entire heart into your manuscript, and the only way to get it really polished is to have a set of professional eyes looking over it. So, and if you're not sure about what kind of cover that you need, my advice to you would be to go onto your genre on Amazon, go into the top 100 and look at the top 10 books. Look at the covers that are selling the best, look at what's the hottest, and go with something like that. Don't copy them, but go with something like that. And same with blurbs. Blurbs are your first chance to really hook them with your writing. So make sure you get that to your editor too. And if you're not sure what kind of blurbs are working, look in the top 100 of the top selling books in your genre. That will help you. And also sensitivity readers. Those weren't a thing. And if back when I first started, and if they were, I didn't know about them. But sensitivity readers are really good if you're writing about something that you don't have any experience with. Like for example, a disability. In my book, Moth to a Flame, my heroine is an amputee. And I'm not an amputee, and I don't know any personally. So I got online and I found a YouTuber who would post about her life and about her amputation, and she would go through and she taught you the different pieces of her prosthetic and everything, and I studied those videos, and I really, I used that as research. And for my college swim romance novels, I spoke to a swim coach, and I asked them questions, and I was like, what's going on, and is this right, is that right? And then I sent her the book, and she was able to tell me if it was accurate or not. So now for the don'ts. Don't try and do all of the things. We live in a world of excess, right? There's something every minute of every day, and we are told as authors, get on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. You need to do reels. There's now Threads. There's YouTube, Pinterest, Goodreads. You should get a Patreon. Don't forget your website and your newsletter. Oh, and don't forget to make some ads. And hello, is anybody else's brain spinning? Because it's ridiculous. We all just want to write a book, right? You just want to write. So you look around though, and it looks like everybody else is doing all of the things. Heck, I saw somebody doing something the other day, and I had to Google to find out what the heck it even was. I was like, how is this a thing? I've never even heard that. I had to Google it. I was like, this is shameful for me. But I did it. I Googled it, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. So that's my thing. Don't try and do everything. Because they tell us we need everything, but we don't. You just need to pick a few things and do those. Do the things that you like the most. I resisted TikTok like crazy. I was like, I hate TikTok. I don't want to be on TikTok. Everyone was like, get on TikTok. You're going to get rich. You're going to be famous. You're going to go viral. I got on TikTok. You know what I got? Anxiety and a sense of failure. I'm like, hey, thanks for the advice, but no. It just did not work out well for me. I'm one of those people that's stuck in the 200 views. I'm lucky if I get 200 views. It made me feel bad about myself. So I was like, I'm not doing this. So I got off. I got off TikTok. My account's still there, but I don't do anything with it. And I focus on Facebook and Instagram because those are the places that I'm more established and that I feel I get the most bang for my buck. So I focused on growing those, and then when those I felt were good, I focused on growing my newsletter. How do you grow a newsletter? I would suggest your back matter. Write a free bonus scene, and I know, after you write a book, you don't feel like writing another bonus scene. It's like, but write the bonus scene. Link it in the back, say, hey, did you love this book? Do you want more of these characters? Here is this free bonus scene. Click on this link, and all you have to do is sign up for my newsletter, and you can read this for free. People will click that link. They will click it. You will get a couple emails that say, I never signed up for this. I'll be like, girl, you signed up. You read that bonus scene, didn't you? But they will click it, and they will sign up. There are also anthologies that do, if you write a story, you get a free sign up, but do that. Do the back matter. So my advice on that would be just pick a few things and do those. Once you've mastered those, you can move on to something else. As I said, I've been here 14 years. I literally just, like 2 months ago, opened my own direct store on my website. It was the first time I've ever had it professionally designed and a new store. And I lived 14 years without that. And I managed to make a career. You can live without all of the stuff they say we have to do. So, my other advice would be, don't be a mean girl.
Yes.
You know, this business is like a popularity contest sometimes. It feels like high school sometimes. And let me tell you, if you are not nice, people will take notice and they will talk about you behind your back in quiet, and you will get a bad reputation. You don't want that. You don't want a bad reputation. Plus, who has time for the drama? You don't have time for the drama. We all have to just help each other. You know, the saying goes, a candle does not lose its flame by lighting another candle. So we all just help each other, and readers are voracious. They will read all of us. They will read anything that calls to them. So my other advice to you would be, don't serve spaghetti if your readers expect cake. How many of you? Now, for years, that whole stay in your lane thing, when that first came out, it was stay in your lane, and that made me angry. I'll tell you, I'm not even gonna lie. I was bitter because, you know, I already said how many things I write. I don't write just small town. I don't write just billionaire. And they were like, pick something and stick to it. And I was like, like, I would be bored, but then I realized that's not what it means. You don't have to write only small town, only billionaires. It's more of a brand promise, more of letting your readers know what they'll get every time they pick up one of your books. Like for me, it's probably found family, some humor, some banner, and a good book. Like as long as you have those core things, I think your readers will trust you and they'll pick up whatever it is you're writing. So, but, you know, make sure you make that clear. Stay in your lane, but you can swerve around a little bit too, you know what I'm saying? Let me check my book. The other one is just don't beat yourself up. Don't compare yourself to other people. You know, it's easy to get in your own head, to doubt your own talent. I mean, I made a whole list of why I shouldn't come today. But, you know, and I used to tell myself back in the beginning, pay your dues, keep working, it'll get easier, it'll get better. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It does not get easier. It gets harder, in my opinion. If it's easier for you, oh, bless you.
Maybe we're God's favorite.
You should be up here speaking. But I've become more critical of myself. You know, you try and outdo yourself. You try and write better every book, and then you start thinking that your past books weren't good enough. That's not true, because your past books got you to where you are today, and it's okay to want to improve and move, you know, do better, but don't discount all the hard work you did to get here, and don't judge yourself by the success that you see others posting online, because you have something to offer that nobody else does. So just remember that and be authentic to yourself, and the readers will come to you. do you want a foreign publishing deal? I had French, and I really wanted to move beyond French. So I emailed a publisher in Italy, and I was like, hey, you know, would you be interested in this book, you know, whatever. And they replied that they would be. And that book hit the top 10 in the Kindle store in Italy. So so don't be afraid to ask. I have gotten Tantor audio deals by emailing and asking. I've gotten Pink Flamingo audio deals by emailing and asking. Some people will say no, but you know, no doesn't cost you anything. And you know, in this business, you're probably used to hearing no anyway, so what difference does it make? But a lot of people will say yes. So don't be afraid to ask, because you know, you never know. You might get somewhere. So yeah, so I've talked a lot today. Probably more than my poor husband has ever heard me talk in the last probably month, because I'm very quiet at home. Maybe I've said some things you don't agree with, but that's good, because that helped you define your path, whatever path you're on. I know you're all out here, I am too, looking for that secret formula to success, but I really think that it's a secret because it doesn't exist. I think that there is no magic bullet to get to wherever you want to go. And I do believe that this business ebbs and flows. So one book might be a banger and a hit, and it might be like your best release ever. And then 2 months later, you release something and it completely flops. That does not mean your career's over. I know it's very hard to deal with. You're like, oh my God. They hate me, you know, but that doesn't mean your career's over. I think it comes back to being consistent. You have to ride the highs and the lows of the business, and you just have to keep working. And if that book doesn't do great, that's okay. And really, it might not even be anything about the book, because some books soar and some books flop, and there really is no rhyme or reason. It's really just hard to say. I think you should just write what you really love and really put your heart into it, and that would be the best way to do it. So, and I say, when you feel like that, when you feel like you're comparing yourself or you're not getting where you want to be, just take a step back. Don't doom scroll on social media. And just remember that behind every shiny post you see, there is a struggle. Behind every success, there has probably been 15 failures. And that your success isn't going to look like somebody else's, and that's okay, because we're all different and we all get to define our own success.
So we're going to open up the floor to ask a question. Let's trade. All right, got one over here.
Hello. I'm Beth Cohen. First of all, I'd like to say, I think you stepped in so gracefully, so props to you. Second of all, my biggest takeaway from what you have said today is that you have shown grace under fire, okay? You've got class, you have found patience, and that you've learned to appreciate where you are in each stage of your career and of the process. I love what you said about not being a mean girl.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have been around women who have said, oh, we're open and we'll help you, and they're never there for you, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
So my question to you is this. When did you feel that, what was the turnkey for you to go from traditional to indie, and why? Was there a moment?
Well, I was with an indie publisher, so I can't really say I was like traditional with the big five. Can y'all hear me okay?
Sure.
Yes. But I think the baby and cake thing. There was some, there was a lot of things like that, and I just really wanted control. I just really wanted my own control, and I just felt like they weren't doing enough. Nothing on them, they're busy, they have a whole publishing house, but I wanted to do more, and I felt that I could do it on my own, so I just decided to give it a try.
Understood. Do you have a group of people
I mean, do you have people who help you?
I have an editor who I've been with. She's been with me almost since my first book. I have an editor, and I do hire out like the ARC process when I send out ARCs, and they do like a book blitz and things like that. I hire that out, and I have a formatter because I don't have the patience to format my own stuff. And I also am not a Mac girl, so I don't have vellum. And I have a few beta readers that I really trust, and I have a cover designer. But I do not have an assistant, and I don't really have anybody else. I have my husband over here. He does all my mail runs.
You're awesome.
Yeah, clap for that. Yeah. Thanks.
He does all my mail runs. He helps pack books when I have large orders. He will set them out on their envelopes with a card that tells me who I have to sign them to, because I personalize everything. And then he helps me pack, and we weigh them and do it, and then he takes them to the post office for me.
Nice job.
Very
It's a team effort.
Over there.
Oh, I can shout, she's gonna hear me this time.
I can hear you.
You said that you wrote 70 books, like, I guess in 14 years.
Yes.
Do you write really fast? Two, what is your word count for those books? Because that makes a difference.
Well, like I said earlier, I used to write 5,000 words a day. I would try my best. And my first book, I think, was around 80K. And then most of my books are between 80 and over 100. But I do have a series of suspense novels, and it's 12 books. And they're all around 70,000. So, but the rest are 80 to 100. I just can't seem to
Do
be
you
quiet.
publish like 4 or 5 a year?
Sometimes I publish 4 or 5. This year is a low year for me. I've only published 1 so far, and I did just finish one, and I said it's only going to be 80,000 words. 105.
Yeah.
So, but it won't be out till next year because the book I was supposed to be writing, I just was not into it. I could not get into it to save my life, and I felt like I was pulling my teeth out. So I switched to something else, a story that I needed to write for an anthology, and of course, I decided that needed to be a full length. So I wrote it as a full length because I loved it, but now I can't release it till next year. So I still have to write something else for this year. So it depends.
There was one back there. All right.
Hi, I was questioning, you were talking about staying in your lane. How often do you write something that crosses many lanes or crosses 2 or 3 different lanes?
So what would that mean for you? Like,
I've had agents tell me that you can only write in one genre at a time, and I've heard others say high concept stuff mixes genres, and I'm confused.
see, I'm within romance, so I tell myself, as long as there's romance and kissing, it's one lane. Right? Maybe you can make everybody kiss in every one of your books. You just want me to tell you, they all kiss. But I think for the stay in your lane thing would be more like, I don't know, like if you're writing horror and versus like fantasy, and you put your same name on those books, then maybe your horror readers will pick up that other book with your name on it, and they'll expect a horror, but it's actually a fantasy. That's what I meant by serving spaghetti and them expecting cake. So you could always use a pen name if you were like really wanting to do really different genres. Like for me, when I started writing MM romance, that's mailman. Everybody, in case you didn't know, I'm sure you all know, but people told me, don't write this. It will ruin your career. You can't write it. And I said, I'm writing it, and I'm putting my name on it. But a lot of people that write like steamy romance, like open door romance, and then they write children's, they have 2 separate names. So I would say maybe ask if you need to get a pen name. Unless you're writing all of these genres in one book. Are they all in one book?
No, it just mixes romantic fantasy with magical realism.
Oh,
A little bit of suspense.
well, I mean, that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
I think that's gross.
I'm gonna say those are very far apart.
No.
Like, maybe you should get a new publisher, or maybe you should publish it yourself.
Who else has a question?
I'm sorry if that
Let's
was
hit
wrong.
over here first, since you're already right there. Oh, right there, right there. Here.
My question is, when
You're fine.
it comes to writing a series,
Yeah.
do you suggest that the author write the entire series first, or release it book by book?
Well, I release mine book by book. I just finished up the Westbrook Elite series. It is 9 books. It's a college romance swimmer series, and I wrote it book by book. And I released it book by book. I wrote the first one, and then I was like, you know what? I need to write more for this guy. And then I wrote to that guy, and then all of a sudden everybody needed to have their own book. And I just wrote it one at a time and released them as they were being written. I just released them like that. I think you could, if you wanted to. I don't know how long it would take you to write 9 books in a row. Like for me, however long your series is. For me, those 9 books took about 2.5 years to write and release. And they were all over 80,000 words. So I didn't want to take 2 years and not have anything to publish. So I would just publish one, promote it really good while I was working on this one, and then start teasing the next one while I was getting it edited and things. And then I would move on to the next.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
Over here. Second row, on the end.
Hi. You look pretty young to me.
Well, thank you.
So my question is, I just started writing in the last year. I'm not learning. But the reason I did it was because I was pissed because there were no books for women over 40.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm wondering, and I literally read all the romance books.
Yeah.
Pandemic on, that's all I read.
Yeah.
There was nothing, so I wrote a book. Yeah, thank you. But I'm questioning, like, do you feel that the older that you get, you start to write older characters, or have you done that yet? I have a whole website devoted to this. It's called romanceforgrownups.com.
Yeah.
But it's 40 plus. It's only heroines who are 40 plus. So I'm just wondering, do you have any of that? Are you not there yet?
No, I'm 44. I'm 44. I have a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. And honestly, I don't think I have any character. I have one character, and it was an age gap romance, and he was 20 years older, and it was a man.
The man does not count.
Okay.
It's a woman.
The man doesn't count, she said. But let me tell you, he was so fun because I got to write all those Generation X jokes and those wise
yes.
He was the best ever. I was like, the whole time. But he doesn't count. So I do not have any older women. I mostly write college romance. I do have some in their 20s and 30s, but I do think there is a need in the market for that, and it's really good that you stepped in to help fill that. Eventually, I probably will get there because I am getting up there in age, so. But yeah, I agree.
Anyone else? We'll take a couple more questions.
I'm just gonna say there are a lot of books out there for women over 40.
Yeah.
There are right now, but there are a number of groups on Facebook that focus on women over 40 and heroines.
You should make a list.
I have a website.
You have a website, you have a whole list.
All the books that I have found so far.
I know a couple others that do, so I'll have to see if they're on the list.
Anybody else?
Anyone else with a question?
Any other questions for Cambria?
No, you did not. That was great.
Perfect.
Thank you, Sarah.